Could it be the most damaging legislation self-storage has ever seen? We're going to talk about that and why you should be a member of your local self-storage association with my friend and a titan in the industry, the Vice President of Acquisitions at Safeguard Self-Storage and the current chair of membership for the New York State Self-Storage Association. I'm your host, Thaddeus Campbell, and I'm excited to welcome Stan Bonilla. Strap in. We're going to take a ride today on the Defining Your Niche podcast. Hello and welcome to the Defining Your Niche podcast. We are breaking some new ground today. I am super excited. I'm your host, Thaddeus Campbell, joined by someone I've known for a very long time in the industry. Well, I say a very long time, almost as long as I've been in the industry. Stan Bonilla of Safeguard Self-Storage. Stan, thanks so much for coming and joining me for the inaugural live version of the podcast.
All right. I did not know that. Well, thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
I couldn't think of a better person to chat with. As I said, I've known you since I got into the industry. Now, I'm relatively new. I got in August of 2021. I can remember back then everyone telling me how it was such a nice, slow, steady business. In the last 4 years, it's been anything but that. Yeah. I'm really excited to talk a little bit about what it's been like for the last few years in the industry. But before I do that, I always start the podcast off the same way, whether we're live or not. I want to hear how Stan Bonilla got into this amazing asset that we're involved with of self-storage.
All right. It's a long, circuitous route to get here, but
most everyone's is.
Yeah, I guess where to start, right? Right after grad school, I got a job working economic development in Brooklyn for a nonprofit organization. And my job was to help businesses come in and take advantage of a whole myriad of economic development programs that the city had for industrial development. I hooked up with some of the brokerage community and made a couple of brokers a lot of money. And one of the brokers said, "Hey, Stan, why don't you come be a broker?" This is 97. I said, "Yeah, sure. That sounds good." I went to joined a group called Insignia ESG, Edward S. Gordon. And Eddie Gordon was an icon in the industry, a real legend. And he kind of tried to bring brokerage in New York City to a new level by incorporating discipline and changing the outlook, trying to bring the IBM management style to brokerage. Yeah. It was a great training ground. I learned a lot, worked with a lot of great brokers, but was not making a lot of money. Right? It was tough. I was doing a lot of deals, new guy, and one of my customers was a storage guy, Pete Williams, and I'm forever indebted to Pete. This was 1998. I was running around with him, buying properties, and he was putting together a portfolio. And he said in his southern drawl, "Stan, why don't you come work on this side of the table?" So Pete, perfect timing. And the rest is history. Man, Pete and I put together the first extra space portfolio here on Long Island, probably about 10 properties. Learned a lot from Pete. Pete came from Storage USA right after they went public. He went off on his own. I was working with him, and he had friends and family money, but we were, doing one at a time, and really taught me the fundamentals of the business, right? And I carry it with me to this day. Focus on the deal at hand, make each deal better than the last deal, and always be respectful of your equity and where the money's coming from, and make sure that you don't get out over your skis. Better to do quality over quantity, and better not to do a deal than to do a bad deal. And I carry those things with me to this day.
You just gave me about 8 questions that I want to ask you. I want to talk about New York City because you are in a very unique part of the world. I want to talk a little bit about the culture of self-storage. And that kind of, you talked about Pete Williams and how you owe a debt. Honestly, I can feel that from you, Stan, in the way you operate with me, because I came in as a nobody who knew nothing, and you treated me, with such respect and such kindness. So I love that aspect of the industry, and we'll talk about that. I'm going to start a little bit with New York City, though. The next thing I want to make sure I ask you is talking about being very cognizant of a deal and how crazy that's been in the last few years for things we underwrote in 21, 22 versus what's really happening in 2025. We'll get to that. I'm going to go back to New York City.
Let's talk New York.
You live in a part of the world that is just, it's different. There's no other way to say it. The density of population combined with the wealth is like nothing else that exists in the world. Tell me a little bit about what it's like operating in greater, you live in Long Island now, but operating in that kind of hub of New York City.
We have about 30 properties. Safeguard. When I say we, whenever I say we, I'm usually talking about Safeguard. But Safeguard has about 30 properties inside of New York City proper in the boroughs. And you talk about the density and the wealth. The fact of the matter is some of our best stores are in the less affluent neighborhoods, but high density. Density wins every time. And the way I look at it is, if you go to Armonk, New York, upstate New York, or over here on Long Island, there's a lot of income, right? Some high income, but your density is much more sparse than it is in the boroughs, and your disposable income. When you bring it all together and you accumulate it all together, your disposable income in parts of Brooklyn, East New York, for instance, is actually greater cumulatively than it is out here in the boroughs. That's why you have faster lease up. Things go a lot quicker. So one of the things that I look for always, first thing I look for is density. Safeguard focuses on core U.S. markets, primarily on the East Coast. New York, Philadelphia, Chicago, Miami, Tampa are some fantastic markets for us. And the one thing that they all have in common is the density. Yeah. So some of those, there are a lot of great deals in secondary and tertiary markets, and people are going to make a lot of money on those deals. It's just not for Safeguard. We know what our mission is, and we stick to it.
I love that you kind of got into a little bit of your underwriting, how you're looking at deals. I didn't mean to go there, but I'm glad we did. I want to kind of dig into this question. My background. I used to run a martial arts school, Tiger Showman's, which is very prevalent in Long Island and greater New York City. There's something different about the kids that came from those schools. There's just like a different thing about growing up there and I guess maybe it's a little bit of a fight just to carve. Like, I'm looking over your shoulder, and for people that don't know, that is not like a AI generated background. That's really that many houses behind him in Long Island. Like, you got to carve out space. It's a fight to get things done.
It's a challenge. It's a fight. If you can stick it out, it really sharpens your skills, because you're not going to make it without that. I like to think that we all have strengths. I like to think that my strength is willpower and the ability to stick to it. Without that, a lot of people come and go, but the guys who are still here really have the ability to see it through to the end. And it's not easy. And you're right. It's, New Yorkers, we have attitudes. Everybody, I don't recognize it, but apparently other people see it in us.
One of my partners was talking to a broker in Jacksonville, Florida last year, and he's like, I was so nice. And I was like, yeah, you were Long Island nice. That's very different than Jacksonville, Florida nice. Two totally different kinds of nice. That was great.
I have a thought about that too. And I try to be very respectful all the time to everyone, no matter who you are.
I can tell you, and I'll go back to you and I had an opportunity a couple years ago. I had a piece of land that we were assigning down in Port Charlotte, Florida, and I'll dig in a little bit, but I'm going to use this as a gateway to the other question that I was going to ask. Again, I go back to what I said earlier. You were just so cool in the way because I didn't know anything, man. At that time, I didn't know what NOI was. I didn't know what cap rate was. I hardly knew anything. And you just were so genuine in the way that you interacted with me. And something else that I really appreciated, you moved with speed. You did not waste time. It was not like a negotiation. I didn't get a 2-week break of negotiation tactic. It was just always upfront and honest. Tell me a little bit about why you operate that way and where that came from.
Well, I'll start by saying that God's blessed me tremendously. opened up doors for me. And my first and foremost goal is to care for God's children and to be kind to my brothers and sisters here. That's first, and everything flows from that. Okay, so that's the way I start. That's why I say, you talk about Florida nice and New York nice. Nice is a front, kind is real, right? You can be harsh, but still kind. And I try to be kind as much as possible. And not that you put it out there and it comes back. And if it doesn't come back, that's okay. For me, God's blessed me, and I've had a lot of great deals and relationships because of it.
Stan, that's awesome. I was actually reading John 1, chapter 5 this morning. I do one little section every day. And John said in the letter, you can love God, but if you don't love people, you don't really love God. You can say you love God, but if you don't love people, you don't. So listen, I'm touched by that as a person who identifies as a Christian and believes in what you believe in. That kind of touched me a little bit. It made me think about this morning. I appreciate that. How does that help you in business? Like, there's some people that are like so cutthroat and they're so like, hey, it's about me. How has your approach helped you from a business standpoint?
One, I don't worry, right? If a deal's going to work, it's going to work. If it's not going to work, it's not going to work. If it's not meant to be, I don't hold on to it. I let it go and I move on to the next one. I think that's the biggest thing. I recognize what I want. I recognize what works. I recognize what works for Safeguard. And then with like a dog with a bone, once it works, I'm going to do everything I possibly can to make it happen. And if it doesn't happen, on to the next one. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not going to hold it. And the amazing thing is, having been in the industry since 98, those deals come back again. Deals that I pass on come back. I'm under contract right now. This is a great little story.
I love it.
If I can deviate.
Yeah, of course.
So the state of Florida, and I love Florida. Florida is a fantastic state. It's a fantastic place to do business. And Safeguard has done very well there. Because the structure of Safeguard is owned by a REIT, and one of the investors in the REIT happens to be a Chinese insurance company.
Yep.
Florida passed a law saying that any company that has any interest of any Chinese national company at all cannot buy in the state of Florida. It didn't apply to public companies, but only private companies. It was an oversight. They missed it. I was under contract to buy a property up the road from me, and this law goes into effect, and we had to drop it. There was no way we were going to close. Dropped it. That was 2023, 2022. Fast forward, the law was amended so that way now I'm treated like, and Safeguard's treated like the public companies. So if it's less than 5%, it's considered de minimis. We can now buy again in Florida. We closed on our first property 2 weeks ago in Tampa, and that property that I dropped is now under contract by me to buy as a CO deal, because after I dropped it, the owner got in his mind, this is a great storage property. Found a storage developer. He built it, and as soon as I can go back in there, we called the owner, found out what was going on. We saw the building going up. We said we want it, and now we're under contract to buy that at CO. I hope that to be around August. So it all comes back again.
I can remember that we had that tough conversation right after our Port Charlotte deal fell through is when that happened.
Yeah.
And I had another deal in Florida I was trying to pitch to you in Auburndale, and you were like, no, I can't do it. I should hook you up with a guy that's building that. You might have another CO deal to do. That's awesome. Next question I'm going to ask you, and I got two directions I want to go here, but I'm going to go to, because this is, cycles in so much to what we've been talking about. The life cycle of looking at a piece of dirt to getting a CO, let alone economic occupancy, is, 2, 3, 4 years, depending on where you're at in the country and what the entitlement process looks like. I came into this industry in August of 2021. It may have literally been the peak of the wave.
Absolutely.
Right? tell me what it's been like over the last couple of years watching these development deals that you penciled in 2020, 21, 22 as we saw that massive COVID boom. And now you're getting into the reality of, hey, the place is open and we're in lease up, and it's a very different environment than it was 2, 3 years ago.
It's humbling, okay? And one of the things that I love about Safeguard is the accountability. Every month we'll sit down and we'll look at every deal that is in lease up or that was acquired as an acquisition up until like 3 years into whatever that time frame is. And every month we'll look at what we underwrote it at and how it's operating today and how it matches up against how we underwrote it. Those misses never go away. And when you underwrite it in 2021, now here we are, 4 years later, and it's reminds you, oh my gosh, you gotta be really, really careful. And the lessons learned from that, one, corn doesn't grow to the sky, right? If you're growing at 10% every year, it's not going to keep on going at 10% every year. It just can't. You can't.
You mean 61% growth in 18 months wasn't sustainable? Come on.
I don't care what the brokers say. It's not going to happen. So that's one. The other one is, and this is something that I've always held to, but it's reinforced. You can't fool yourself to do a deal, because if you're going to be in it for the long term, it's going to come back to you and it's going to haunt you and I'm haunted now. And it's not because I wasn't being honest. I was looking at the conditions as they were, and I forgot the discipline that you learned in 2008, 2009, right?
Yep.
And the discipline that you learned during COVID itself, and now the discipline that we're learning again, the lesson again, 2024, and keeping that with you, and sometimes getting knocked in the head's a good thing, because it teaches you again, listen, let's be conservative. We're in it for the long term. One unique thing about Safeguard also, we're not a REIT, but we are not merchant developers. We're owner operators. We're operating. If I build it, I'm going to own it for the next, hopefully, very long time. Right.
And let me ask that. I want to ask that question because I was going to ask you to kind of, your structure is very different from some other people.
Yeah.
That's not always, that doesn't always make it easier than what other people have to deal with. But tell me a little bit about your unique structure and how it changes how you're going about deals.
Yeah. So we don't have any debt. I mentioned that we're wholly owned by a privately held REIT. I think the minimum investment today into the REIT is about $250 million. And we're the small end of it, right? We try to be around 5%. I think we're falling behind, because once you get that big, you really have to grow fast.
Yeah.
And that's having to change gears for Safeguard. So that's one challenge, right? Is keeping up with the monster.
Yeah.
It's a beast, and to be able to do that, that much volume. The other challenge is it's a Morgan Stanley managed REIT. So Morgan Stanley is my board, and Morgan Stanley does not suffer fools, right? If I make a mistake, one bad deal and it's all over. So you really, really have to remain disciplined. And there's there's money trying to come into the queue. So you want to get those investors in, but in order to get those investors in, you have to use that capital.
Yeah.
To dilute it by getting debt works against us. So we don't have any debt. We're using all cash. That's a real advantage when we're talking to buyers. The challenge is that equity wants its return. And if it's going to fall short of that return, then it don't even bring to the table. I look at a lot of deals and just say, okay, it's just not.
This brings an interesting question for me, because listen, we know as a developer, I know that debt is usually cheaper than equity, right? What my investors expect for a return is usually significantly higher than debt. Of course, debt in 21, 22, at 3-4%, that was super lower. It doubled, maybe we're in 6 or 7 now for a construction loan, 7, 8 maybe. Your returns that you need to show to that REIT, did debt going up actually help you?
I
guess I'll ask the question a little different way. Did it make deals that other people could no longer do more affordable for you?
not more affordable, but it did change the landscape. And the way it changed the landscape is when debt changes, the market shifts.
Yeah.
Okay, and just because debt is moving or cap rates are moving doesn't mean okay I can keep it at this cap rate now, or I can keep my return artificially low because I don't have to compete. I have to compete with the market. If the market is getting X,
Yeah.
I'm expected to bring in deals at X or better,
Right.
not where I was, which was at one point significantly lower than that.
Right.
I still have to compete and bring the best deals to my board.
I love that. The question I was going to ask before I got sidetracked with wondering if debt increases actually helped you. How hard is it with that monster? Right, you talked about keeping up to your expectation of being 5% of the REIT when you're also trying to learn from maybe not mistakes in 22, but lessons that you learned from some deals that punched you in the face. How do you keep the discipline but still keep up with the beast?
Well, it's a challenge. There's no two ways about it. And the other thing that we do here at Safeguard, we're a very thin organization. We don't have a lot of guys on the
Truth.
development side. There's five of us, right? And that
Yeah.
includes construction.
Yeah.
Six, including Maria, who kind of runs the office over here. Um, so we're trying to do more volume with the same amount of people. And the reason we do that, there's a lot of organizations that in the boom times will add on 30, 40 people, and at the bus let everybody go.
Yeah.
I've been here at Safeguard now going on 14 years. The
Yeah.
new guy's been here for 7 years,
Yeah.
Dylan. And Dylan started off as an analyst, and now he's a top-rate deal maker in his own right. And that's the way we try to maintain it and maintain the growth and maintain the organization. But it also makes it very difficult because we're still trying to grow at a fast clip and while meeting the thresholds. 2024 was I go back to what I said earlier. Sometimes it's better to do no deals than do bad deals,
Yeah.
and we did not do very much at all in 2024. 2025 is starting to pick up. The market is shifting. We're finding opportunities. We're putting in the hours, turning over lots of stones, and that's what it comes down to. There's no substitute for good habits and hard work.
I'm going to do a hard turn here because you and Dylan and I had a chance to go to lunch one day at a restaurant that is a really cool story. I want you to talk me through a little bit of that story during COVID and what happened. Because, honestly, from my perspective, I'm going to let you tell the story, but it tells a lot about who Stan Bonilla is. So I'd like to tell you to tell me a little bit about that restaurant.
I will, but I'm not taking credit for that. Okay, that was right place, right time, right people, and some good guidance.
Take me through the
So
story and we'll let everyone else decide
okay,
whether or not
all
you
right.
get credit or not.
So for years and years and years, we would before we were in this office. This is a storage facility we built in Plainview. We put a nice office on the fourth floor. Before this, we were in a little office in Melville, and we'd go out to lunch multiple times during the week, and we'd go up to a little place called Bravo Naders. Beautiful, like very quaint little restaurant, fantastic chefs, and great people. And year after year, we'd go there. We'd have our meetings there. We had our table in the corner. Jim Goonan was really the man over there. He had a little plaque over the table with his name on it. Jim works here at Safeguard, if you don't know. And we'd go there all the time, and we got to know the staff really well. And we got to know Angelo, who was the maitre d' and really the business manager there, really well. And Angelo came to us and was looking to start his own place. He tried to be a partner there and didn't work out. So we started looking for another place. This is in 2019. We started looking. 2020 came, and we thought we found a place, and then COVID hit. But it
Uh,
opened up an opportunity. So we reached out to Angelo and we put together a deal. And we redid the whole place, rebuilt it. We kept the entire staff, and went October. We were the first restaurant open in 2020, and a handful of guys. Dylan's a partner there. Jim, myself, a few other folks. I probably shouldn't say that. Sorry, Jim. But everybody, come on down to Angelo's. It's great.
Yeah, it
It's a
is.
fantastic place, and the whole staff is there, and the staff is absolutely fantastic. It's very quaint. Oscar, the chef, who is honestly one of the best chefs on Long Island, just absolutely phenomenal. Angelo, who is just a man among men, really takes care of the people, and it's our clubhouse now. We're there all the time. Anytime I have a meeting, as you know, we're up at Angelo's. Up at
Listen,
Angelo's.
I gotta get. I'm almost willing to brave Staten Island and the Cross Bronx
I
to
know.
get up there to go.
It's that good.
That
It is
it's
that
that
good.
good. I'm a connoisseur of good food, and I will say that is it's an excellent restaurant. Listen, the reason that blows my mind so much is because I remember what it was like in March through October of 2020, and like you guys deciding to do that, it was not necessarily following sound business principles to go make that investment. It was more about people and taking care of people that you knew and were fond of. And so it makes me feel good when I'm up there and I see that place. We were there for lunch and it was packed.
Yeah.
That makes me happy. But wanted you to share that story because I think it illuminates a lot of who you are as a human being. I'm going to come back to self-storage a little bit, and we're going to talk a little bit about your role on the board of the New York State Self-Storage Association, why that's important to you. That is not a small time commitment that you're making there.
No,
Why you've done that and why it's so important to you.
um, it's so multifaceted, that question, but I'll kind of take from the top. First of all, I've been in the industry for a long time. I know a lot of people in the industry. I've created a lot of great relationships in the industry, and I have had my eye on associations around the country, from the national to all the different states. And I looked at New York State SSA, and New York State SSA has been a pioneer for a long time, and has kind of been at the forefront for years and years and years. But as I'm watching the other states grow and continue to grow, they started surpassing what I think New York State should be, and the preeminent position that New York State should have in the industry. So I had that conversation with some of the board members, and they said, "Put my money where my mouth is." So now I'm the chairman of the membership committee. So Thaddeus, by the way, we're still waiting for your membership.
It's coming. That check is coming. I was on the website the other day. I got a phone call. It's coming. I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to tell you, I'm motivated because the best event I've ever been to of an SSA by far, and I have. I'm gonna say this without. I have not been to the ski show, the ski workshop, and I have not been, or ski summit, I guess is what it's called.
Mhm.
And I have not been to the Napa, California show, but the New York Self Storage Association Investment Forum in Manhattan in January. The information that's shared in that room it's hard for me to fathom that they're actually sharing the information they're sharing.
It's the best event, and not to take away from the ski event or Napa. Those are more events, right? Where you go and it's networking, and they'll have a speaker for an hour, and then you're off to the slopes or off to the vineyard, which is great. Don't get me wrong. I love to ski and I love wine, two of my favorite things, and I love people. So it's all good. This is an afternoon with the five CEOs of the public REITs, sometimes six, right? Hopefully this year we'll have six in January. And different panels, just really in the weeds, but not boring. It's all good stuff, and a lot of times we'll have some fantastic keynote speakers. We're working on that now. Hopefully, I can share with you soon who that keynote speaker will be, but it's going to be a good one.
Awesome. I listen, if you have not been to the investment forum or investor, I can't remember what investment or investors, if you haven't been to the NISA January event in Manhattan, you got to get there. I can. So this is a transition and we're at 30 minutes, which is hard for me to believe. If you got a little bit of time and can hang around, I have a couple more questions I want to ask you. Coming from that, January of 2023, actually more than 2 full years ago, was the first time I ever heard ECRI, right? Discount pricing strategies. And I can still remember like it was yesterday, they had the 5 REITs, Life Storage was still around at the time. And they were like, this is here. It's not going anywhere. It's working. And we're going to keep doing this discounted strategy. And existing customer rate increases. Talk to me a little bit about that as Stan Bonilla, NISA board member, director of memberships, but also as Stan Bonilla, vice president of acquisitions for Safeguard, this strategy of, giving a 80% discount to get someone in the door and then spiking their rate.
This is where worlds collide for me a little bit, so I'm gonna tread carefully. Um,
I try to put you on the spot a little bit.
yeah,
I've been
so
too nice for the first half
yeah,
hour.
no, it's good because I have something on my desk today from the New York City Council, a new bill that's being
Ooh,
proposed. Uh,
good
uh,
timing.
it goes to similar to the California 708 bill. This one is trying, but much more aggressive. New York City wants to
Shocking.
cap rent increases by 2% annually.
California, it's SB 709, and I'm only
No,
correcting
no.
you because Chris Berg corrected me when I said SB 706. So SB 709 for you guys out looking, they were going to cap rent originally in that bill, but it was going to be like 10.5%. It wasn't going to be like an onerous cap.
Right. And that's a hybrid. It's 10.5% or X over the CPI, whichever is lower.
Right. Okay.
So it could have been lower than 10%, but not more than 10.5%.
Right.
This one, they're saying let's cap it at 2%, which
less than typical CPI.
by the way, if you're going to stop raising my real estate taxes by no more than 2% and cap utility and payroll by 2%, okay, but otherwise you're going to put everyone out of business very, very quickly. So that hit the desk today. They're talking about it again, City Council.
I'm going to chime in. How much responsibility do we have as members of the industry to make sure that our practices are not creating an environment where city councils start talking about this stuff?
I'm going to leave that to each individual, okay? For Safeguard and myself, I feel like truth in advertising, this is what the full rate is going to be, and we're going to give you a discount off of that full rate for this many months. So that way you know when that burns off, this is what you're going to pay. You know that the day you sign up. So there's no bait and switch. There's none of that. And I can tell you because of that and because of our relationship with our customers, we are rated very highly on Trustpilot. We have one of the highest ratings on Trustpilot. I think out of 5, we're like 4.8, 4.7. Far higher than some of the other groups that don't practice that way. It's working for them, maybe. I know I love the line that your last guest had said. I think it was, just because it's legal doesn't mean it's ethical.
Jason Coonan of Bluebird Self Storage.
Yeah. So now I'm not going to go that far as calling some other colleagues unethical, but I think you have to look in the mirror and ask yourself: if I was a consumer, would I appreciate this? Am I treating others the way I want to be treated? And
going back to the golden rule, right? That's where I kind of eventually came to grips with this idea and was like, hey, I know that I would not want to sign up for a $60 rate and find out 6 months later that it was $240 and I didn't have an idea that might happen.
Right. That's it's not going to happen if you come to Safeguard. I'll say that.
I love it. Stan, I could go on, man. You've had me smiling this whole time.
Awesome.
And super, super informative. I so appreciate you being so open and honest with your answers. If somebody could bring the perfect deal to Stan Bonilla, A, what would it look like? And B, how do they get a hold of you to put it in front of you?
Okay. First of all, this is all over LinkedIn, so you can find me on LinkedIn. My email, my phone number is there, and there's my email address right there. So go ahead and email it.
Everyone's got to have someone behind the scenes taking care of them. Eric is taking care of me.
Eric. So what am I looking for? Like I said, core markets, core U.S. markets, density. Urban infill stuff, I'll build it. I want to, if I'm building it from ground up, I want to build from 75,000. I want to build it as small as I possibly can to get the returns required. If I could build 40,000, I would do that. Not really practical anymore. 75,000 to 120,000 is really where we're finding the sweet spot. I don't like going larger than 120,000 because I think that there's diminishing returns when you get larger, and now all of a sudden you're chasing occupancy with rates, and that's a game I want to avoid. But land and plans are great. Shovel ready, I love it. That's how we started talking. But
A
we'll take
former life.
that's it. We'll take it. We'll take it from the get go, and run with it if there's good properties.
I love it. Stan Bonilla, Vice President of Acquisitions for Safeguard. Again, can't thank you enough for agreeing to come on. I'm Thaddeus Campbell, Flex Park Partners. I'm looking for 4 to 10 acres, not competing with Stan. I want places where the saturation for storage is way over what you'd want to develop. I'm looking to build flex instead of storage. So if you have something, you guys know how to get a hold of me.
Or we'll do this: get us 10 acres, and I'll take 2 acres on the front.
I love it. I
back.
love it. Stan and I will work together. Guys, appreciate all of you. That's it for this week's episode. Listen, if you enjoyed what you heard, if you got something of value, there's a couple other videos that you can look at somewhere above me. I don't know which way I'm supposed to point, but they'll show up over my head here. Listen, give us a subscribe, like the videos, watch something else. We appreciate you guys hanging in. And Stan, I'm sure we'll have reason to talk very soon, my friend. Thanks so much.
You're the best.